The kingdom of my divine will in the midst of creatures. Book of Heaven, Volume 32, Part 1. JMJ, Fiat, in voluntate Dei, Deo gratias. March 12th, 1933. How created things are the guises that cover the divine will. Example of a king in disguise. How creation and redemption are always in act of calling the creature to operate together. My celestial sovereign Jesus, hide me inside your divine heart, so that not outside of you, but inside the sacrarium of your heart, I may begin the present volume. The pen will be the light of your divine volition, dipped in the furnace of your love. And as you dictate to me what you want to tell me, I will act as a mere listener, and will lend to you the paper of my little soul, so that you yourself may write what you want, the way you want, and as much as you want. Beware, my lovable teacher, not to let me write anything of my own, otherwise I will make much nonsense. And you, sovereign queen, hide me under your mantle. Keep me defended from everything. Never leave me alone, that I may fulfill the divine will in everything. So I continued to think about the adorable Fiat, and I felt surrounded by all created things, and each of them was saying, I am the divine will. What you see outside of us are its guises, the garment that covers it. But inside of us, there is its life palpitating and operating. And oh, how glorious and honored we feel, for we form the clothing of the divine will. The sun forms for it the garment of light, the heavens the azure garment, the stars the garment of gold, the earth the garment of flowers. In sum, all things have the honor of forming the clothing of the divine will, and all in chorus we make feast. I remained amazed, stunned, and I said to myself, oh, how I wish I too could say, I am the garment of the divine will. How happy I would feel. And my great King Jesus, visiting his little daughter, told me, my good daughter, King, Creator, divine will means to dominate, to invest, and to hold our life inside each thing created by us. To create means to stretch out one's life, to hide our creating will in the very thing created by us. This is to create, to call things out of nothing, to enclose in them the all, in order to preserve them in the integrity of the beauty with which we created them. Now you must know that my will is like a king in disguise within each created thing. If the creatures recognize him under those guises, he reveals himself and abounds in giving his divine acts and his royal gifts, which only this celestial emperor can give. But if he is not recognized, he remains there, unobserved, hidden, making no sound or pomp of his royal person. Nor does he abound in giving of his gifts, which only a volition so holy can give. And the creatures touch the clothing, but know nothing, and receive nothing of it, and of its gifts. And my fiat remains with the sorrow of not having been recognized, and with the anguish of not having given its divine gifts, because not knowing it, they lacked the capacity and the will to receive royal gifts. I act like a king who, disguising himself, goes into the midst of his people. If they pay attention to him, even though he is not wearing the royal garments, they shall recognize him from his manners, from his face, and drawing all around him, shall give him the honors of king, and shall ask for gifts and favors. And the king will reward the attentiveness of those who recognize him in disguise, and will give them more than they want. And with those who do not recognize him, he shall pass by unobserved, without giving them anything. More so, since they themselves do not ask him for anything, holding him as just anyone from the people. So my will does when it is recognized under the guises of the created things. It reveals itself, and it does not wait, like the king, to be asked for gifts and favors, but it itself says, "I am here. What do you want?" And it overabounds in giving celestial gifts and favors. But it goes beyond the king. By locating itself, it gives its very life to the creature who has recognized it, which the king does not do. Now, you too can say, "I am will of God," and make of yourself the guises, the garment that hides my divine will, not only if you recognize it in all created things, but if you recognize it within yourself, give it dominion in all your acts, and place at its service everything that the guise of your being does to make its life grow in you. It will fill you so much that the mere garment will be left of you, which it will use only to cover itself. And you will be more happy than all created things, because you will be the living guise that shall share with it its joys, its happiness, and also its infinite sorrows. For it wants to be life of each creature, but ungrateful, they do not give it full dominion. In sum, you shall always live life together, keeping each other perennial company, forming one single life. After this I continue to follow the acts done by the divine will in creation, since it is always an act of creating it, by virtue of the preservation which it incessantly exercises in each created thing. I find it always in the creating act, in order to say, with deeds, to all and to each one, "How much I love you. It is precisely for you that I am creating this whole machine of the universe. Oh, please, recognize how much I love you." But what surprised me the most was that the eternal Fiat was waiting for me. It wanted me together with it in the creating act. to tell me, "Come into my act. Let us do together what I am doing." I felt all confused, and my eternal love, Jesus, surprising me, told me, "Little daughter of my volition, courage! Why are you confused? In my will there is no yours or mine. The act of one must be unified with the other and become one. Even more, as the creature enters into our volition, she remains confirmed in the act that my fiat is doing. Its love, its loving industries are such that it wants to say to the creature, 'We have done this together.' Therefore, the stretched out heavens, the sun refulgent with light, and everything else are yours and mine. We have the rights in common. This is why I always hold the act present, because I want the creature together with me. She, for love of whom alone I am always operating, so as to hear her say to me, in that same act which I am operating, 'I love you, I love you, I love you.' Not having an 'I love you' in work so great and marvelous, not being recognized, would be as if our love remained defeated. But no, but no, among many we have to find someone who would remain with us, loving and operating, who would give us the little requital, so that our love may find its outpouring and its happiness on the part of the creature. And as she enters into our fiat, she remains confirmed and bound in its divine acts, in such a way that its binding virtue binds God and the creature. And just as in creation, so in redemption, there are no past acts, but all acts in act and present. Past and future do not exist for the Supreme Being. So, your Jesus is always in act of conceiving. There is a footnote here about the word conceiving, meaning being conceived. So, your Jesus is always in act of being conceived, of being born, of crying, of suffering, and of dying and rising. All these acts of mine, in continuous act, without ever ceasing, besiege each creature, drown her with love. And for the outpouring of my ardent love, I keep repeating, "See, only for you am I descending from heaven, and I am conceived, and I am born, and you come to be conceived together with me, to be reborn together with me, to the new life that your Jesus brings you. Look at me. I cry for you. I suffer for you. Have pity on my tears and on my pains. Let us suffer together, that you may repeat what I did, and model your life with mine, so that I can say to you, 'What is mine is yours.' You are the repeater of my life." In the same way, if I die, I call her to die together with me, not to make her die, but to rise again with the same life of the one who so much loves her. So my life is repeated continuously. A past or future love would not satisfy me, nor would it be the love and redemption of a God. It is the present act that has the virtue of wounding, of conquering, and of disposing her to lay down her life for love of the one who, in act, is laying it down for her. However, there is a great difference on the part of creatures. One who listens to me and takes everything that we have done, both in creation and in redemption, as in the act of doing it, forms her life together with us, feels our divine acts flow within her acts. Everything speaks of God for her. On the other hand, one who looks at them as past things retains only the memory of them, and a memory has not formed either divine life or heroism of sanctity. Therefore, take things as they are in reality, always in act, always to love you, and always for you to love me. Fiat. March 19th, 1933. Nourishment that the Supreme Being gives to the creature, which serves to make the soul grow, and to make the divine life grow in the soul. The divine will, depository of every one and of everything. I am always prey to the divine fiat. Its love is so great that it leaves me not one instant without nourishing my poor soul. But in order to nourish me, it wants me with itself, at the mercy of its acts, to prepare together the food it wants to give me. So, while following its acts, I paused in the act when God was creating man, and my highest good, Jesus, surprising me, told me, "My blessed daughter, our supreme goodness was not content with loving man, with giving him the whole universe at his disposal, but in order to give vent to our intense love, we placed our divine qualities to nourish his soul. So we placed our power, wisdom, goodness, love, sanctity, fortitude, as his celestial and divine nourishment. Therefore, each time he would come to us, we would spread our celestial table before him, to nourish him and satiate him. There is nothing that unites and identifies with the creature more than food, which reaches the point of becoming blood, warmth, strength, growth, and life of hers. In the same way, our divinity, wanting to nourish with our divine qualities, made itself warmth, strength, growth, and life of the creature. But this was not enough. This nourishment, once digested, would not only make the creature grow all beautiful and holy with the virtues of the nourishments that she would take, but would serve to make the divine life grow, which does not adapt itself to human nourishments, but wants its own divine nourishments in order to grow and form its very life in the depth of the interior of the soul. See, can there be a greater love, a more intimate and inseparable union than to expose our divine being, our immense and infinite qualities, as nourishment, to make her grow with our resemblances, and then to make use of them in order to administer to her the nourishments, so that she would not leave us on an empty stomach within her soul, and may be able to say, God nourishes my soul, and I, with the food that he gives me, nourish his life and make it grow within me. Only then is love content when it can say, You have loved me, and I have loved you. What you have done for me, I have done for you. And since we know that the creature can never reach us, we give of our own, and in this way we equal both sides, and remain content and happy, she and we. In fact, only then does true love feel happy and satisfied, when it can say, What is yours is mine. And do not think that this was only for the first man. What we do once, we continue always. Still now, we are at the creature's disposal. All the times in which she unites with our will, dissolves hers in ours, lets ours dominate, are as many visits that she comes to make to our Supreme Being. And are we going to send her back on an empty stomach? Ah, no, not only do we nourish her, but we give her of our own, that she may have sufficient nourishments in order to grow as our will wants her, and so that she may not lack the necessary means in order to make our life grow ever more within her. More so, since on our part we don't let her want for anything. On the contrary, we give always in a superabundant way. If anything is lacking, it will always be on the part of the creature, but from us, never. After this, my poor mind continued to wander in the divine volition, and my always lovable Jesus added, My blessed daughter, my divine will is the depository of everything that has been done by us, and of everything that the creatures have done. Not even a thought, a word, the greatest works, as well as the littlest ones, the steps, the heartbeats, the breaths, the pains, nothing can escape it. Everything is deposited in it. So everything you do takes its place in my will. Nor can you hide anything, because with its immensity it envelops you. With its power it is the actor of everything you do, and with its divine rights it is entitled to possess, to know, and to preserve the whole operating of the human generations, and to reward them, and to chastise them, according to what they deserve. Its goodness and power together are so great, that just as it does not lose even one star or one drop of light that the sun possesses, or one drop of water from the sea, so does it not lose even one thought of creature. And even if it wanted to lose it, it cannot. Its all-seeingness finds it in act in its will. Oh, if creatures would comprehend that a divine will receives in deposit everything they do and think, how careful they would be that everything be holy and upright. and they would call this supreme will as life in everything they do, so that their acts might not receive any sinister judgment, because they would be in deposit in the same divine volition as acts and effects of it, which no one can dare to judge, and they would be rewarded as acts of a divine will operating in the creature. In addition to this, just as the divine will is the depository of everyone and of everything, so is the human will the depository of all the thoughts, words, works, steps, and so forth of the creature. It loses nothing of what she does. On the contrary, they form one single thing with it, and each thought, word, pain suffered, everything, remains written and sealed with indelible characters. It can happen that the memory might not retain everything. Many things it has forgotten, but the will conceals everything and loses nothing. So it is the depository and bearer of all her acts. Therefore, the divine will is the depository and bearer of everyone and of everything. The human will is the individual depository and bearer of itself. What triumph shall eternally be, what honor and glory, for one who has thought and operated in a saintly way, and what confusion to one who has deposited in the human will sins, passions, unworthy works, rendering himself by himself the bearer of his own evils. And if the evils are very grave, he shall be pasture for the infernal flames. And if they are less grave, he shall be pasture of the purging flames, which by dint of fire and of pains shall purge that sullied human will, but shall not be able to render to it the good, the holy works it has not done. Therefore, be attentive, because everything is being numbered and written. Neither do you nor do we lose anything. Even a thought, a word, shall have its perennial life, and will be like faithful and inseparable friends of the creature. So, it is necessary for you to form holy and good friends, that they may give you peace, happiness, and perennial glory. Fiat. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 32, Part 1. Fiat.